look at question 31. This question is talking about pollen grains, which means it is referring to the processes taking place in a flower. So pollen grains in the male parts. Which part are we referring to here? It would be the anther. Pollen grains are found in the anther. So process P takes place, and now pollen grains land on the female parts, which would be the stigma of the flower. What process is taking place here where the pollen grain in the anther gets transferred to the stigma? It is pollination. So process P is pollination. After pollination has taken place, the next process takes place and the fruits are developed. So what process could this be? It would be fertilization. So process Q is fertilization. Students need to take note that pollination takes place first and then fertilization would take place. And when fertilization takes place, a flower would develop into a fruit. So in the next part, we are to describe what happens during processes P and Q. Process P is pollination, and pollination occurs when the pollen grain from the anther lands on the stigma. And process Q is fertilization. What is fertilization? Fertilization is the process where the male reproductive cell in the pollen grain fuses with the female reproductive cell in the ovule. So here are the answers. Pollination occurs when the pollen grain from the anther lands on the stigma. And fertilization occurs when the male reproductive cell in the pollen grain fuses with the female reproductive cell in the ovule. Let's look at the next part to this question. Chunzi carried out an experiment with two types of young plants R and S. She measured the number of young plants at different distance from their parent plants in a garden. The results are shown in the graph below. Let's analyze this graph. As the distance from the parent plant increases, the number of young plant R, which is the black one, decreases. The graph shows that more number of young plant R are at a shorter distance from the parent plant. Hence, they are closer to the parent plant. While more of young plant S, which is the grey one, are found at a further distance from the parent plant. Now we need to put a tick in the box that most likely represents the fruit of plant R. Plant R is the one that is at a shorter distance from the parent plant, which means they are closer to the parent plant. So when their seeds are dispersed, they are clustered around the parent plant. So let's look at the two fruits now. What kind of characteristic does this fruit here have? It has a feather-like structure. Which means this fruit is dispersed by wind. So does this fruit cluster around its parent plant or it disperses further away from its parent plant? Let us think about this. The feather-like structure increases the exposed surface area of the fruit, and this increases the amount of air resistance acting on the fruit, allowing it to stay afloat in the air for a longer period of time, and hence the seed would be dispersed further away from the parent plant. How about this fruit here? This fruit has a pod-like structure, which means this fruit is dispersed by splitting. The pod-like structure would split open when the fruit is ripe, throwing the seeds forcefully around the parent plant, and the seeds are usually clustered around the parent plant. So now back to the question, which one most likely represents the fruit of plant R? Remember, the young of plant R are closer to the parent plant. Hence, this fruit here, which is dispersed by splitting, would most likely be the fruit of plant R. So let us look at part 2. Using the results shown in the graph above, explain your answer in part 1. So we need to use the graph to answer this question. From the graph, we can see that as the distance from the parent plant increases, the number of young plant R decreases. What does this show? This shows that plant R disperses its seeds closer to the parent plant. And this is similar to which dispersal method? It would be splitting. So here is the answer. As the distance from the parent plant increases, the number of young plant R decreases. This shows that plant R disperses its seeds closer to the parent plant, which is similar to the dispersal pattern for splitting. Thank you for watching this video. If you like my discussion, please click on the subscribe button below. And if you like to find out more about my analysis of other questions in this paper, do click on the videos on the right. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!